Welcome to the Abundant Accountant Podcast. This is where accountants come to learn all the ways you can grow your firm. When you are in doubt, we are here to help you out. If you're ready to learn, ready to grow your firm, then you are in the right place to sharpen those skills and increase your revenue. Welcome to the Abundant Accountant Podcast. This is where accountants come to learn all the ways you can grow your firm. When you are in doubt, we are here to help you out. And if you are ready to learn, ready to grow your firm, then you're in the right place to sharpen your skills and increase your revenue. And hey, maybe even work a little bit less and make more money. Today on the Abundant Accountant Podcast, we have a very special guest. Our guest has built a 25-year career serving business owners and leaders as a CPA. Our special guest concentrates in personalized financial, accounting, and tax planning services for individuals and corporations. In addition, our special guest specializes in real estate industry from developers to managers to brokers. I have personally worked with our special guest for over the last year and would love to welcome Marc Schnoll to the show.
Thank you, Michelle. I'm glad to be here.
Thank you so much for being here. And I'm very excited to have you on today as we, really talk about how to show your true value as the accountant professional that you are and really be that trusted professional to your clients, right? And I've heard this question a lot from a lot of other accounting professionals, and over the year or, for the year or two, there's a lot of people that have clients that they've had for a really long time. And then it's like, well, really, how do you show your true value now to the people that might be paying you whatever they were paying you in the past? And, it really makes sense because something like this could be a make or break in your situation or an extreme learning lesson. Like I know that you're going to be sharing a certain story today. But I want to make sure that each listener today can learn from your personal experiences, some solutions that work for you, and how you can apply them to your firms and your businesses today. So that's what we're here for. And Marc, can you just introduce yourself real quick to everybody? Like, where's your firm? Where do you live? How long have you been in business? Just a little bit about you.
Sure. My name is Marc Schnoll. I am the owner and operator of Sexton & Schnoll CPAs in Gainesville, Florida. We've been in business 14 years. I bought the practice from the former owner back then, and we provide all manner of services. And we've been transitioning to focus on tax planning and those higher value services over the last year. That's been our focus.
Awesome. And I know that really learning how to show your value as the trusted professional accountant that you are has been one of the biggest focuses that you've been working towards. So I think a lot of people deal with the situation where you have a client for a really long time, right? And then you start to realize that, wow, I haven't increased their prices. Wow. They now email me not once a week, but they start emailing me every day. Wow, they want me to respond to them immediately. Like now you're this personal concierge CPA, right? And then it just is like, it just keeps going and going and going. And you're so busy running your business and you're growing your team and you're working with all your other clients that you never, ever increase your prices. And then it just kind of hits a wall one day. So can you share from your personal experience about a situation like that with a client and, maybe give us the backstory first, and then we'll go through the solutions that really work for you on what you did different.
Sure. That's a great intro to this story that I want to talk about. I had a client, we'll call him John. He had been a client for 15 years or so. And, he had a series of businesses and about 6 or 7 years ago, he opened up a new business, and we were his outsourced accounting department. We did everything for him, his bookkeeping, his payroll, his year-end tax planning and accounting, If he had any questions, he was contacting us. He literally did not have an accountant on staff, and this was a business that started, relatively small, and it grew in revenue. I mean, his first year it might have been a couple million, and by last year it was up around 15 million in revenue. He had multiple entities. And the number of entities, grew year over year as his business expanded. He was very successful, and through it all, we were his go-to person from an accounting perspective. At the beginning, we set a fee, a monthly fee that seemed fair at the time. I think it was in the vicinity of $1,000 a month or something, plus some extras, some year-end tax work. Over the course of the year, we might have netted $25,000 over the course of the year, maybe, probably less than that. And over the course of time, his business grew geometrically, and our fees grew more linearly. By the end, he was paying the monthly fee was about $2,500 a month, and his the extras might have averaged out to another $2,000 or so per month. So for our firm, that's he was our largest client by revenue.
So the total you received was about $4,500 a month, just so everyone can understand this. Okay.
Right. So yeah, along those lines, yeah. But understand that his business had grown, so much. I mean, it might have been, by revenue, probably 7 or 8 times. And the complexity, of course, when you have multiple entities, those entities interact with one another. So every time you add an entity, it's not just a little bit of extra work. It's often a lot of extra work. And of course, the tax planning and those sorts of things get more and more complicated, more and more sophisticated. Additionally, the owner, again, we had a very close working relationship. He emailed me all the time, and by all the time, it wasn't monthly, it wasn't weekly, it was often daily. And he had a habit of working late at night. So I'd wake up in the morning, and there would be frequently there'd be a series of emails from him that required a response. Some of them might have been very easy. I might have known the answer off the top of my head. And so I would just respond. Sometimes it would require some research, or I'd have to ask a staff person to gather the information so that I could respond. And typically, and I think this is pretty common, typically we wouldn't bill for each of those emails. It was just sort of included. And to be honest, it wasn't something that I really, I had a general sense that he probably should be paying more. But at the same time, this was our biggest client relationship, and you maybe don't want to rock the boat. And it's also kind of a hassle to track, the 2 minutes I spent responding to this email, even if it's, hundreds or thousands of emails of this type. So over time, the gap between what he was paying and the level of service we were providing just increased.
Yeah. So how did you really know that, I don't think that I am receiving, my firm is not receiving the value that I deserve anymore? Like, what was for you maybe that wake up call moment where maybe you do need to rock this ship a little bit, the boat, like you mentioned, but what are like 2 or 3 things that maybe you can share with others listening that might have this long-term client and that, their business is growing geometrically, like you said, and your fees are staying linear, not going up? What are like 1, 2, or 3 things that, you realize like, hey, I'm not getting my value here?
Well, as I mentioned, for the last year or so, we've been focused on tax planning and delivering those services to really higher end clients. And we actually prepared a tax plan for this client. The plan was designed to save him a ton of money, nearly $1 million in tax over a 2-year period. So in my mind, a very successful plan. And as a follow-up to that plan, we realized it was really time to reevaluate the relationship and the services that we were providing. So I did an analysis of what exactly we were doing for him and what we ought to be charging for those services. And what I found really astounded me. I knew that there was one staff member who was spending about half his time on this one client. You know, the cost of that, I mean, just his salary and benefits is probably half of what this client was paying. And then when you include the other costs, obviously, in a firm like ours, salaries are the biggest cost that we have, but it only represents about half of our overall cost. So in my view, you know, what does it cost to provide service to this client? One way of looking at that is to take the salary input and double it. That would be a reasonable estimate of the overall cost to serve this client. So you do that, and basically this client was paying for this staff member's time and the related costs associated with that. But that means that he was getting our admin time for free, he was getting other staff members' time for free, and he was getting my time for free.
Which is not the way to show your value as a trusted professional accountant, correct?
Correct. And it's like I say, it was really an eye opener when I literally looked at how much time we weren't billing for, or if we were billing, it was underbilling because we weren't capturing it all. You know, our staff people do a very good job of tracking their own time. I will admit that I do not. And so I do not do a great job of tracking my own time. And then when we looked at, and think about when I'm working, like I said, I might wake up and check my phone in the morning, and there's a handful of emails that I might respond to, or I might just be thinking about as I'm getting ready for my day and responding a few hours later. You know, when I did this analysis, I looked at a 90-day period and found that he had sent me something like 300 emails in that time. So even if each one took 2 minutes to respond to, you know, think about all that time. I mean, that's 10 hours of time right there, just in responding to emails in a 90-day period that we haven't been billing for.
Right.
Multiply that by 4, add to it all of the other time that I'm supervising staff, that I'm, doing research and responding, because again, that average email is probably more than 2 minutes, and there's a lot of other stuff that goes behind it. So there was a ton of really either unbilled or underbilled time. I realized we had a problem because I didn't want to continue doing this, and by doing this, I mean serving this client at a loss.
Right.
I did not want to do that. And yet I knew that when I presented, a new pricing structure to this client, that he likely would balk. And in fact, that's what happened. And so, I mean, we went back and forth for a while, but ultimately, I mentioned that he was paying about an average about $4,500 a month, and
right.
What we asked for was $12,000 a month, and we could have made an argument for even more, $14,000 or $15,000 a month, given all of the services that we were providing and the additional services in serving that. Maintaining that new tax plan that was going to save him $1 million. So I knew that it was going to be a rough road to get that increase, and ultimately he decided to go somewhere else.
Yeah, and I think that's where your true value shines, right? Because I think a lot of people might have just kept that client, but at the end of the day, you were at a loss position. So yeah, you lost revenue, but one thing we can't eat, all of us, we can't get back is time. So for each person listening, Marc, that, they might be in your same shoes, right? We all have these clients that we've had for a long time. I know that you're recommending your idea with the salary estimate for that person, the staff member, and just double it and make that the fee, right? If it's going to be one person on the account, if I understood that correctly. feel free to clarify. And then also do a deep dive analysis over your past 90 days to see how many emails you sent out, how many phone calls, and how much time did you really spend with some clients? Because some, like this one, you might be operating at a loss, and it doesn't do you or the client's getting a great deal, but your other clients might be suffering. So, did I get that right?
Sort of. I would argue.
Or what would you do differently? Like, or just share, now you would do an analysis so each person can do that. What's like 2 other things each person can do today, or, schedule it out in your calendar to go look at where maybe you are not gaining or getting the value that you deserve as the accounting professional that you are in your firm, and where are some clients that you need to go do an analysis on?
Well, I would look at the time that we're looking at, but rather than doubling it, because that would to me in our firm, doubling it just lets us break even. And obviously we want to make a profit. The first question is, what does it cost to provide service? And so for us, doubling the time inputs is a reasonable estimate of that. Then the question is, okay, how much profit are we looking to make? And the other is, how much value are we providing? So just looking internally, you want to look at, okay, what kind of profit margin do you want to make on this client? If it's costing you $5,000 a month to provide service, what sort of margin do you want? And that's going to be a guide to how you want to price. And then the other question is, what do you believe the client's options are? And that was an analysis that we went through as well. When I said, okay, we feel like we should charge $12,000, could the client replace us for that? And certainly the lower level services, the bookkeeping, the day-to-day accounting, they could certainly get for well under that. But to get the higher level services, the tax planning, the staying on top of all of the deadlines, and guaranteeing our work that if we mess up, we fix it. That all costs money. And that is valuable. Could he replicate that for less than what we asked? I don't think so.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And I don't think so either. So with all that said and done, right? What did you learn now or can you share with everyone, what was the outcome real quick? I know you said he walked and left, but what did that free up? Like, what did you realize when this client actually left? Like, what's changed in your business? What's changed in the firm? What's changed with your team and the people that were servicing that account? Because this left probably a lot of time is my guess. So can you share a little bit about that?
Sure. It is true. The client did walk, and it's after 15 years, it wasn't an easy thing. It didn't happen overnight. But, we did have a positive relationship. I mean, he didn't have any qualms with the work we had done. And so we just, we helped an orderly transition, and that has been fine. But after that, what has happened is it's opened up a ton of capacity in our office. Historically, this office is pretty busy year round, and that's a good thing, but sometimes that can be too much of a good thing. With this client leaving, we have greater capacity to bring on new work, and by new work, it's the higher value stuff. Whether it's new tax planning clients or maintenance work where the client is paying more on a per hour basis. I mean, we don't really bill that way, but that it's a better ROI for us, the work that we're doing. I mean, this client or this staffer who spent half his time on this one client, he actually took a vacation this summer, and that's something he literally hadn't done in about 5 years. I mean, this is a guy that I've got to push to take a long weekend, and so he's actually taken some time off, and it's just from a lifestyle perspective, it's better. I don't wake up at 6 a.m. and look at my phone and have a bunch of emails from this client. I can go right to work on things that are actually going to get us paid.
Yeah. No, and I think those are some of the things that people can apply today, and some of the lessons that you learned. So if you were to have done it a little differently, right? since you've been through this, you've had this client for a really long time, you went through this whole experience and, the guy walked. What would you do differently today, now, like going forward, right? To really show your value as the trusted accountant that you are, and what from like the lessons learned, like what are 2 or 3 things that you do differently now that other people can learn from your experience?
Well, one thing that this really showed me is that for these long-term client relationships, the odds are that we're underbilling on many of them. And so something that I did earlier this year, I raised fees across the board 10 to 15%. Now I think we're worth a lot more than that, but I also don't want to shock everybody. So I expect that next year I'll be doing the same thing and basically trying to be more aggressive about pushing fees so that these longer term clients start to pay more, something closer to what we're worth without shocking them, because we don't want everybody to leave right away. That's one thing. The second thing is that with new clients, we are far more focused on making sure that we are paid what we are worth from day one. We don't, if it's a client where we're doing a lot of this day-to-day work, we're pricing it higher. And if they don't want to pay it, that's fine. If they want to pay for a bookkeeper, maybe they don't want me, and that's their choice. But if they're going to get me, they need to pay for it. Does that make sense?
It makes 1,000% sense. But that confidence that you have when you say that, I think translates probably in the way you speak to your clients too. So maybe did going through this whole process with this client increase the confidence of that? Because that was like, wow, I've never heard Marc talk like that before.
I think it has. It really showed in black and white. Okay, A, we're spending a ton of time, and B, we're providing a ton of value. And this is at the end, this client was running a $15 million business without any accounting staff. It's mind-boggling when you think about it.
Well, and on a $15 million business, what would the cost be to him to have an accounting internal? What if he had that internally? What would he be paying every month? I don't think $4,500 a month to someone on salary to do everything that you were doing, right? So when each person listening is doing the analysis, also something to think about is, well, what if your clients brought on someone internally? What would that cost them?
That's exactly right. Because for that $4,500, they very likely could get at least in this area, we understand salaries vary around the country. You could get a full charge bookkeeper that's very good, probably do all of the day-to-day stuff. And if that person went on vacation, there'd be nobody doing the bookkeeping that week, maybe nobody doing the payroll that week. If that person gets sick or quits, you've got the HR problems. But then, that person is not going to have the skill to do the tax planning, the tax projecting, right, the tax returns at year end.
Right.
So, there's a lot more. I believe we were providing tremendous value for what he was paying.
No, and I completely agree. And I really appreciate you sharing so authentically here on the Abundant Accountant podcast, because this is creating not only a firm of abundance and abundant clients that you love, right? And that will pay you not only your value, but also having the life, like the fact that your staff member was able to go on a vacation finally. You can't get that kind of time back, and that is extremely valuable. And your team members, that's how you're able to continue growing your business. So I'd love to end it with, do you have any other 1 or 2 things that maybe have popped up for each person listening who, really says, like, I really want to be able to show my value a little bit better as the trusted professional accounting person that I am to my clients? Is there anything, last words of wisdom from you, Marc, for each person listening?
I would say just have the confidence to know that that you are worth it. And sometimes that means that somebody, you may lose a client, but that client doesn't see the worth. You'll find the clients that do, and you'll be better off for it.
Yeah, no. And I so appreciate you being here with us today. And I always say, if your clients leave you, that's perfect. It just opens up the opportunity for a new one to join you and your firm, and you get to help someone who actually sees the value for who you are. So thank you so much, Marc, for being here with us today on the Abundant Accountant podcast. It was an honor to have you.
Thanks for having me, Michelle.
What an amazing episode with Marc today, with a really, really, really important topic that I think a lot of accounting professionals that I talk to are dealing with. You have these clients that you've had for such a long time, and you haven't raised your fees enough. And then you feel like, they're a pain. You don't want to work on the accounts. Your staff is, tired. You're not paying them enough. And it's the worst feeling in the world. And it actually follows into your maybe newer clients that are paying you your value, but these older clients that you didn't raise fees on are sucking not only your energy, but sometimes your time. And that is not the life of the abundant accountant. So I highly encourage each of you to do some of what Marc talked about today. Maybe do an analysis, 90-day analysis on a long-term client you've had, and really see how many calls have you made? How many emails have you sent them? How many meetings have you had and never charged for? And really get a clear picture if you are in a loss position. So you don't deal with what Marc had to deal with, and you can focus on those long-term client relationships and the new clients, and really providing that value and service that you ultimately want to do for each client. So I say take one thing and put it into action. Also, if you are tired of feeling like you give away your knowledge and expertise for free, you can register now for our free accountant masterclass and learn my 3 proven strategies to easily build your practice with premium clients who eagerly pay you what you're worth. So you can get access now over at theabundantaccountant.com. Once again, it's theabundantaccountant.com. And I just want to thank each of you for listening today and being here with us. I'd be grateful if you could leave a rating and a review if you have a second. And I always love hearing from each of you. So I do read all the reviews, and I just want to say thank you for being here and have an amazing day.